What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? It's your boy StephenMotivate. Back at you once again, and I really want to talk to you today about the 52 Turo tips. And I think we're on tip number 12. But what I think is, even before we get into that, is kind of interesting, or something that I'm thinking about that I want to share with you is we've moved into a new studio space, so we can bring this content and information to you more consistently and hopefully like more excellently. So we're excited about that. We're adding people to the team to help bring you guys the best content we can and really share information with you that we think will help you long term in terms of your entrepreneurship journey, and and in terms of like not just your entrepreneurship journey, but your life journey too. Like, what does it take to, have a life that's fulfilling, that's full, where you're doing what you love to do, you're making an impact on people, and it's fun. And so along those lines, I just had a thought. Maybe we should call this the journey with StephenMotivate. Today I want to talk to you mostly about our Turo tip number 12. If you're going to do Turo, you should do it right? It's a car sharing business. It's not passive income, it's active income, which can become passive eventually, but not immediately. And so one of the things I say is, maybe I'll give you two tips. Tip number 12 is be a guest to know a guest, right? To really understand that guest experience, it's best to be a guest. So you gotta, what is the saying? You gotta be one to know one, something like that. So I encourage you to actually try Turo out as a guest. If you've never used it for car sharing, if you're gonna get into this business, it's super important. And this really goes for business anyway, in general. For the journey of entrepreneurship, you need to experience. I don't care what business you're going into, you need to get some experience with that business. For instance, if you want to open an event center and you want to have people, rent out your space for baby showers or weddings, well, you need to go rent someone's space because you need to understand what that looks like from the customer side. And it will give you so much feedback as to, what you should focus on, what you should think about doing differently, because you'll know what you didn't like. If you go in and have a guest experience in Turo, you'll understand, I didn't like the way they presented the car to me. The host messages were too lengthy, or they were just right, or I liked how they gave me unlimited mileage. And so being a guest is important if you're going to understand how to set up the guest experience for your customers, for your guests, for your car sharing community. If you get into this business, this side hustle, one of the things we try to do is, we try to teach part-time entrepreneurs how to generate full-time revenue. And so you can generate revenue with Turo, but being a guest first is important on your journey to understand how you want to set up your Turo business. Don't just take my videos for it. Don't just take the next person's videos for it. It's all great. It's all part of the package, but also get some experience, like include going out there and actually trying out the service so you can understand how the app works, right? What buttons you need to push. What happens when the app is messing up and it causes frustration. There's so many things you can learn by just being a customer first. And so anytime people come and talk to me about, hey, I want to start my thing, I want to do this, I want to do that, I said, okay, one, go talk to people that do that. And then secondly, be a customer, be a guest of that experience. You know what you don't like when you go through Chick-fil-A and, they don't get your fries quite right, or they put too much salt on them. So now you would know, if you were to open your Chick-fil-A, how do we make sure that we don't oversalt the fries or undersalt them? Like, that experience will be your teacher. And, sometimes our best teachers is experience. It's not necessarily learning from a coach or a mentor. It's getting your hands dirty and understanding, oh, I don't like it that way, or we shouldn't do it that way. So you got to be a guest to know a guest, and that's going to help you in your Turo business. That's tip number 12. Let's jump to tip number 13 while we got a little time. You know, you got to lower your prices. You got to think about lowering your prices in the slow season. I did this too late. You guys know, if you've been following me, that I've been doing Turo for, gosh, how long has it been? Well, I signed up in 2016. That's almost 8 years ago. And then I never rented my car. I think I talked to you guys about this. Never rented my car out. A guy actually got mad at me and was like, why do you have your car up here if you're not going to share it? That's the whole purpose of this. And I was just, again, kind of testing the waters to say, hey, will people even want to rent this thing? I had a Camaro, a 2015 Camaro at the time. So it was basically a brand new car. And it was, I think that was my first brand new car I'd ever purchased. And so I didn't really want anyone else in my car, to be honest. But, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm thinking, oh, maybe make a little bit of money. Let's see what the demand is. And so I listed it up there. And I never took any trips. But in 2021 is when I watched a few videos online, got some more information, and I actually started to share my car. But it was all good, like the song says, it was all good a week ago. Like, it was all good for 6 months. 6 months, business was booming. I was making, hand over fist revenue. But then I started in the summer, so I didn't realize it was peak season. And so when I got to slow season, I never adjusted my what I was charging to the platform for people to use my car. I never adjusted the rates. So people stopped sharing my car. And then I was like, uh-oh. I went from making $5,000 a month to losing $5,000 a month. I have to look at the numbers to know specifically, but I was losing money. And one reason I was losing money is because I wasn't adjusting to the demand. It had become slow season, and I was unaware that maybe, okay, I didn't make any money that weekend. Let's wait till next weekend. I actually thought it was going to be busier because it's the holidays and stuff like that. But, my theory to this day is that in the South where I'm at, in Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a lot of people that are down here but aren't from here. So many of them, I believe, are going, back to visit their families during this time. And so it was actually slower here than what I imagined. And I'm sure there are people coming in town to visit family too. But anyway, it was slow, and I didn't adjust to the demand. So supply and demand. Your tip number 13 for developing your Turo business is that you've got to adjust your prices to the season, right? And it may hurt a little bit because you're like, but if you really want to be in this business and do it right, then that's one thing you've got to do. Now, other people may say, are there other ways to go about it? Like, yeah, you can develop customer relationships that are so strong where you don't have to compete on price, or you can have such a great experience that you get word of mouth business and you don't have to compete on price. But if you're going to just run Turo with minimal effort and just let the platform bring you the business, and you just kind of sit back and put your cars up there and let Turo do a lot of that middleman work, then a very important lever to pull is the lever of adjusting those prices. And the problem is because people think the business is so passive and I can just, I'll just put it up and do whatever. If you don't manage it, then it won't grow. If you don't manage it, it won't grow. And when people's Turo business starts to go off the rails and they're unable to keep it going, or they're super frustrated, it's because there's probably been a failure of management at some point. It's not always the case, but many times that's what's happened. And so I encourage you to just take that tip, take it for what it's worth. If you're running your Turo business, if you got 1 car, 2 car, 3 cars, 4 cars, if you're growing your fleet up, this will help you grow your fleet in a way where you can at least sustain through the slow season. It's going to be tough. You may not make as much money, but if you could just break even, if you could just get something to offset the overhead and expenses you have, like I think my dad would say this, anything, or my mom, anything beats a blank. And that's not always true. Maybe not as it relates to relationships and people, but it is true as it relates to the Turo car sharing business. So I encourage you to keep going. And as always, stay motivated. Until next time, this is your boy, StephenMotivate. Peace.